Da 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 da
It was Christmas morning. The three children, Devin the oldest, Mark the middle child, and Harold the youngest, rushed downstairs in a frenzy to gaze expectantly through the glass door at the piles of expertly wrapped presents glittering in the sunlight peeking through the blinds. They couldn't enter the living room with the bedecked tree. Not yet. Protocol dictated that everyone waited till the entire family was present, and that meant waiting on their sleepy parents. None of the children believed in Santa Claus anymore, but they believed in gifts. And they didn't rouse their parents prematurely because they respected hard work, no matter how badly they wanted to run upstairs and shake them into wakefulness. Devin, the oldest child, got a collection of dolls, along with an electric scooter. The scooter could wait. It was the dolls that captured her attention. When her parents, Peter and Martha, finally arrived with eggnog and a plate of cookies, she immediately began dressing them and primping them and preparing them for a night out. She was meticulous in her ministrations. Mark got a target and a set of darts, against his mother's wishes, a selection of DVDs, books, and board games. He had almost outgrown board games, but he still chose to get together in person with friends to play Dungeons and Dragons rather than Enter. The overwhelming and somewhat artificial and superficial and occasionally expensive world of online gaming. He looked over his presents with an air of cool nonchalance, as his parents eagerly waited for some expression of joy or excitement. They waited till they could not have waited any longer. It was Harold's turn. He got a set, 2 sets actually, of Star Wars collectible cards, along with books and action figures. When he came to the action figures, Mark snuck up on him with a sly glint in his eye. "You'll need something for those." "What do you mean?" "I mean like scissors or a knife." "Why, Mark?" "Here, I'll show you." He dragged Harold into the kitchen. "Where are you boys headed?" their mother called after them. "We're going to make Harold's figures float in the sink," Mark replied with a wicked impression of sincerity. "Here, dummy, take this knife and start scratching up their faces." "I don't get it." "Battle scars. They're warriors, aren't they? They need battle scars." Harold hesitated until, with a stern look from his older brother, prompted him into action. He grabbed the knife hesitantly and began making tiny scratches on his figures' faces. Something about it didn't feel right, ruining a perfectly decent Christmas gift from his mom and dad, but he was too afraid to face Mark's considerable wrath. "That's it," Mark said. "Really get in there. Show some guts. These guys have been battling trolls, giants, and all sorts of beasts for years. You have to really show it." Against the demands of his conscience, Harold dug in deeper. He was starting to get the hang of it now, enjoying the feeling of playing God with his action figures. "We're about to sing Christmas carols, you two. Get your butts in here." Harold had always been the first to reply, the first to obey. His interaction with Mark had sharpened his mood some, but he still respectfully answered his mother's call. "We're coming." Mark stuffed his toys in his arms. "Now you run to your room and hide these from Mom and Dad. This is our little secret, understand?" Harold forced himself to nod. "Where's Harold?" his father asked when Mark was back in the living room with the lit tree and wrapping paper scattered across the floor. "He's putting some things away for safekeeping so they don't get gnawed on and scratched up by the cats." "Oh, well, he better get back here soon. We're about to begin." Breathless, Harold came pounding down the stairs just as they were bringing the peach cobbler Mother always made on Christmas Day, decorated with 1 candle, for 1 more year lived and celebrated. His sister, Devin, couldn't have given him time of day. She briefly gazed at him as if he were a lump of clay, then turned her attention to the pie. After the songs had been sung and the food had been eaten, Peter fell asleep in a recliner. Devin went to the kitchen to help her mother with cleaning. The 2 boys left to their own devices. "Do you want to wrestle?" Mark asked his younger brother. "And get thrown and pushed around and pinned for 30 seconds? "No, I don't." "Coward." "I think you're the coward, picking on people smaller than you. I saw you run away on the playground after Hector Blairguard challenged you to a fair fight. You're a coward, and I deserve a better older brother." There was a fire in Mark's eyes. His lip curled into a nasty scowl. "How about this? I have a job for you. You do it, I'll never call you a coward again. What is it? I want, he stopped to mutter laughter to himself, I want you to put battle scars on all of Devon's dolls. That's cruel. She'll cry. She'll hate me forever. Not if she thinks I did it. That's the thing. You can be brave, and I'll take all the blame. How does that sound? Harold's fists were clenched so tight. The knuckles were white. He was shaking just a little, and his teeth were grinding together. He had felt bad enough about destroying his own toys, let alone Devon's. Impossible. No way. I can't do it. I won't do it. Devon hates you anyway, you know. She barely speaks to you. Heck, she barely even has the heart to look at you, because you're a coward. Harold slipped into the kitchen unnoticed, grabbed a sharp cutting knife, and brought it back to the living room, where Mark sat waiting, a shit-eating grin on his face. One by one, as his conscience worked like a force of gravity, pushed his arms down and away from the dolls, he worked his way through Devon's new collection, cutting and gouging into the plastic until it was done. Harold was out of breath, not from exertion. He was out of breath from the pain of battling his moral compass. It had been pointing in the opposite direction the entire time. Later that day, when Devon found her mutilated dolls, she was horrified, hysterical, heartbroken. Someone had ruined her Christmas. She clung to her mother, tears pouring down her cheeks. Now who was it? Their father bellowed. Harold looked to Mark to hold up his part of the bargain, but instead, it looked like he was trying to hold in a terrible secret, one that didn't entirely belong to him. Dad, Mark said, earlier today I saw Harold using a knife to carve into his action figures, just like the ones on Devon's dolls. Is this true? Yes, but he told me to. He told me I needed to make them look like warriors. Their father reared back, chest swelling and nostrils furling. So it was you. Harold couldn't lie. And he realized it was pointless to bring in the plan Mark had devised. He wouldn't be believed. It would just add to the confusion. So he simply said, yes, it was me. You're grounded for a month. No games, no TV, no sleepovers, no friends, nothing. You're on your own for a month, so you can think about what you did to your sister. On Christmas, for Christ's sake. You'll help with the chores, you'll get your homework done on time, and every day. And here's where the large man leaned in imposingly. You will apologize to your sister. I'm sorry, Devon. I'm sorry I ruined your Christmas. Screw off. The response prompted a chuckle from Peter, and a goodness me from Martha. The day grew long, and the sun was setting behind the trees. There was still some added light coming from the reflection of the hard-packed snow. A few days earlier, Mark and Harold had built the mighty snow fortress with a network of tunnels going deep in. Always made Harold feel nervous and claustrophobic. Still, he couldn't show fear to his brother or risk getting cut out for playtime altogether. Peter said that Harold should go on without supper for his transgressions. Mark smiled a secret smile, but Martha chastised him, reminding him that they were now living in the 21st century and a child had to eat. But all their calls went unanswered. I'm worried, Martha said. I wonder what he's doing up there. Mark turned his attention to Devon. Probably whacking off. I showed him how the other day. Gross, Mark. I don't want to hear that stuff. Will someone go up and check on him, please? Mark, will you go? Mark sighed, but got to his feet, climbed the stairs, and found Harold's room dark and empty. He saw no sign of scarred action figures. Shaking his head, he lumbered down the stairs to report his findings. He's not there. And you checked everywhere? Under the bed? Everywhere? The room was dark, Mom. He wasn't in it. Martha was the first to push her seat back and stand up from the table, quickly followed by Peter. Devon continued playing with her phone unconcerned. He'll be back, she said. He's just hiding because he said he was ashamed. You could try the attic. Could he be in the attic? Martha said, turning to her husband. Peter shook his head. No, the trap door shut months ago. Bet he's playing outside. But it's freezing out there. He'll catch a cold. We better bundle up, Peter said. You too, Devon. So now I have to go looking for the brother who already ruined my Christmas. You goddamn right, Missy. We stick together in this family. Grab your coats, your gloves, your scarves, whatever you need. We're going out there. Mark was the first one dressed. He was beginning to feel the tiniest bit of guilt work its way into his chest. He didn't like it. He promised himself he wouldn't be the reason Harold got in any more trouble. The 4 family members started around the yard screaming and calling out for Harold, but they were greeted by silence. They knocked on doors, asking if anyone had seen a slim boy, floppy brown hair. Perhaps it contained under a green cap, but all they heard was no, no, no. Where could he be? They searched for hours in the bitter cold while Christmas continued in nearby homes with fresh sliced hams and pecan pies, candles, and music. Damn him! Mark muttered under his breath. It was just a joke. Peter and Martha ended up calling the police, who found Harold almost immediately. He was in the snow fort Mark and he had built. Except the fort had collapsed and Harold had been suffocated. His face was a blue mask. When they pulled him out in front of sobbing Martha, a stunned Peter, a speechless Devin, and a devastated, guilt-stricken Mark. 2 decades had passed since Mark had last seen his family. Now he was in a hotel room with Gwen, his girlfriend of a year and a half, preparing for a family reunion. Gwen's legs were wrapped around him. As she sat beside him in the hotel bed, she gave his back a gentle massage. It'll be good to see your parents after all these years. No, it won't. I'm the last one left, and they won't know how to handle me. Too much pain, too much unprocessed grief. She rested her head on his shoulder. You're the last one. My older sister Devin took her life 14 years ago, a mix of pills and booze. She never got over my brother's death. We went for the support groups. It was the same song and dance. It was my fault. It was my fault. I pushed him away. I told him to screw off. And nothing could break her from that refrain. She never healed. The grief was too much to carry with her every day, and eventually she fell victim to it. What about you, babe? Have you processed it? Mark rolled off the bed and began to pull on a pair of slacks. You don't process it. You just let it go. What about your parents? Gwen. She sat straight up. I'm just asking, Mark. 2 of their children have died tragic deaths. That would be enough to push anyone over the edge. Mark finished pulling his shirt over his head. Get this. My mom says she plays games to pass the time. I think she's getting a little senile. What kind of games? He sprayed himself a cologne. Don't know. Wouldn't say. It was strange. Well, we're going to find out tomorrow, Gwen said in a sing-songy voice. The next day, Mark and Gwen arrived at the house with a bottle of wine and a bushel of roses, respectively. Mark pushed the door open and within seconds was greeted by his father with a big bear hug. Mark, my boy, you must be Gwen. A real pleasure to meet you. Peter stuck out bare paws, and Gwen accepted gracefully, then gave Martha a hug as they made introductions. 2 hours later, everyone was settled in, and Mark and Gwen squeezing into Howard's room, somewhat refurbished since the unfortunate passing. I hope you don't mind sleeping with your brother slept, his mother said. We've been using your room for storage. Devin's is an absolute disaster. Always has been. Mark's father, who had been remarkably quiet up until this point, agreed with a hearty nod. Complete disaster. I'll take 6 months of hard labor to her sorting out moved. Neither of us have the motivation. Soon it was time for supper. Gwen popped a question she had been waiting to ask Mark. Hey, so what sort of games do you play? Mark stared silently down at his plate and shuffled his potatoes around. Martha reached out for Gwen's arm. Mark noticed a deep purple cut running down her inner forearm. Mom, did something happen? When'd you get that scar? Martha quickly pulled her arm back. Oh, I slipped when I was slicing carrots. You wouldn't believe. No, I wouldn't believe it. Dad, what happened? Peter raised his head slowly. Sometimes things just happen and you have to live with the scars. You know that, Mark. We know it was you. Mark threw his chair back, and Gwen tried to plead for him to restrain his temper. Gwen, his father turned to his girlfriend, has Mark grown a conscience since you've been together? Because he didn't have one when he was with us. Mark knocked his plate across the table. He smashed a glass of wine on the floor. I was 12 years old. You're going to tell me I didn't have a goddamn conscience? Can you hear yourself right now? I can hear him. He speaks to us every night, and we play with him. With delicacy and care, his father unbuttoned his plaid shirt, spread it wide, and revealed a chest and stomach covered in ugly purple scars. Mark looked to his mom. What is this? What have you been doing to each other? Is this how you choose to remember him? His mother smiled sweetly. No, hun, this is how he chooses to remember us. She undid the first few buttons on her blouse, revealing a litany of aching scars, some red, some pink, and some dark purple. You see, she continued, I'm his baby doll, and his father is his warrior, and we take our scars in honor. Gwen had left sobbing hysterically. She'd driven, so the keys in the ignition, fired it up, and took off as fast as the car would. Mark was trapped alone with the horror. But this is madness. This is a shared compulsion. He's not still here. Peter nodded. Oh, but he is. And he's been waiting for you. Go upstairs to the bathroom. Look in the mirror. You'll see him. Waiting for you. Peter took to the stairs from the carnival of horrors that was the dining room. You could have hit his tub. He looked in the mirror. He saw nothing, but he felt the malevolent, vindictive presence all around him, caressing him with its razor-sharp claws. You're not my brother, Mark shouted, fear making his voice tremble. Something darker than the room itself suddenly appeared in the mirror. Mom and Dad can't play too much longer, a voice said. It's your turn now. You're not my brother. You're not Harold. You're the fucking stain of his grief, his anger, his pain, and his desperation he left behind. And when he departed this world, we give life to you, and you don't deserve it. Mom and Dad may still need you, but I don't. I've forgiven myself for what I did to you. I've let you go. Then they'll die carrying my grief, my anger, my pain, my desperation. They'll die putting battle scars on baby dolls. I'm more real to them than you will ever be. The grief is far tighter bond than good family cheer. We're letting you go. He picked up bottles and various toiletries and began hurling them at the mirror until it finally shattered. Through the noise of his fury, he didn't hear his mother enter the room. She bent down, picking up a piece of glass. Mom, no! It's time, Mark. My final scar. And before he could reach her, she had drawn the sharp piece of glass clear and deep across her throat. Dad next. Mark rolled up his sleeve, and with gritted teeth he bent down and picked up a chunk of glass. Thank you for tuning into another episode of D.L. Holmes Presents. Battle Scars on Baby Dolls was submitted by author Timothy O'Neill, and if you'd like to know more about Timothy, you can reach out to Pale Ginger Publishing. Their motto is, we put writers and their work first. So, again, if you like what you saw here today, remember to like, subscribe, share with your friends. There's a list of links below where you can further support the channel. And tune in next week where I'll have another episode of D.O. Holmes Presents.